Well, sorry for the fuss and kerfluffle there. We didn't quite have everything set up like we should have before we actually got started. So I had to run in there and carry the phone to my wife because, well, we'll
Hey,
explain what's going on, but essentially we are keeping our phones, trying to keep our phones fully charged because we don't know when the lights might go out. Right now, it looks like tomorrow night is the greatest likelihood when we might lose power because of the weather. But right now, so far, everything seems to be just fine. And obviously, we have lights in the house. So,
I need this phone moved where this cord won't touch me.
did you want me to come in there and move it around?
Yeah, I can't get it moved.
The cord is twisted, folks. So sometimes it wants to lay where you don't want it.
Is
that how you want it?
Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize for that noise and the extra kerfluffle, but
I'm sorry about that.
she has very sensitive legs, and if the cord drags over her legs, it drives her nuts. So we have to try and take care of that. So have that done. Obviously, the big talk is the weather situation. We did post earlier in the week when we saw the forecast that there was this off chance that we'd be without power. Now we did kind of decide maybe, in fact, I actually downloaded the Facebook app onto my phone so that I could stream live to Facebook from the phone. Um, we don't have to do that right now, so we have avoided that, dodged that bullet for now. Now that doesn't mean we won't lose power at some time in the coming week. And the way it's looking now, shopping on Monday could be kind of a exercise in futility.
Yeah, they're predicting empty shelves.
Yeah, well, the shelves in every store in town are probably empty right now.
Yeah.
That's just human nature, and people they get this. Oh, I might not be able to make a score. Let me go quick buy a whole bunch of stuff, and whoosh, there's nothing left on the store shelves. And the storm blows by in a few days, and they've got all this stuff they got to do. Didn't we just watch a comedy routine where some guy talked about that?
I don't know.
About all the weird things they had to eat afterwards because they'd bought up all this stuff on panic buying, and now they had to figure out how to use it up. Well,
I don't.
so we may be up against empty shelves when we go shopping on Monday. We'll see. And driving could still be pretty hazardous on Monday. Now, generally, I'm not too intimidated by slippery roads and stuff. I keep my car in relatively good shape, and I have a lot of experience driving in very tricky weather. So, I know to be careful, and I know where I'm at to watch out for other drivers who don't know what they're doing. But generally, I won't feel like I can't get out and do something if I need to. So anyway, yeah, and you could charge with being arrogant that way, I guess, if you want to. It's been kind of a crazy week. We had something come up, and so we had left some messages, and we're expecting phone calls. And I'm back in the back room, storage room of the house, looking through some things, and I happen to see if this is what I'm looking for. It's probably going to ask me what I want to do. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, no,
Outrageousness.
no, no, no,
It's
no, no,
nothing
no,
more than a
no,
way to
no.
wake people.
I'm going to be able to turn that up here in a moment. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was there and you heard it all. But I have to explain what it is first. Anyway, I was back in that storage room looking for something. I heard the phone ring, and I turned around, come into the room, and I stepped on something. I have no idea to this day what I stepped on, but it did cut my heel and peel back the skin a little bit and expose something. So we treated it with povidone iodine, which you may know of as betadine, and covered it with a Band-Aid. But my wife asked me how long it had been since I'd had a tetanus booster, and I couldn't remember. So I got an appointment at the doctor's office. I went in Wednesday, and the physician's assistant looked at it, didn't think it was a big deal, but did agree that it had been a while. They actually looked it up on the state database. It had been almost 16 years since I'd had a tetanus booster. So I have a sore arm now because I got a tetanus booster this week. Now, what you heard kind of start there was the beginning of a 60-second commercial that I produced way back in the 1980s. It was agency copy, and I'm pretty sure that the music was provided by the agency as well. But I recorded the copy over the music bed, and I kind of liked what I did, so I kept it. And one of the things I spent some time on this week was going through all my old cassette tapes and finding things I'd like to keep, to have on file, available, and this was one of them. So here goes. Let's try it again. This is for Honda scooters. It would have been 84 or 85 probably. And just I'll tell you about the business once you hear it here.
Outrageousness? It's nothing more than a way to wake people up. You've seen it before every time someone rides by on a Honda scooter. 4Fam is being a little outrageous too, because for a limited time only, the factory has authorized them to offer huge discounts on the Honda Spree. So prices now start at just $445. With prices this low, owning a Honda scooter may never be easier. Besides, the Spree is easy to start. You just push a button. It's easy to operate. There's no shifting. And it's easy to maintain. In fact, it's virtually maintenance-free. Best of all, there's no easier way to be totally outrageous. So hurry to 4Fam, Route 88 North Newark, and check out the complete line of Honda scooters. But most of all, check out the outrageous deal on the Spree. It's the lowest priced Honda scooter. And now, for a limited time only, it's priced even lower. See the Spree today at 4Fam, Route 88 North Newark. Price excludes tax, title, and license.
So, now, the address for the business, 4Fam Honda, was Route 88 North Newark. It was on the outside north edge of town, right where the north-south highway through town turned right to go up a hill. And it's not much more than a stone's throw from that business that you reach a little location called Hydesville. Now, maybe the name Hydesville doesn't mean much to you. There's an old house there that is considered the birthplace of modern spiritualism. It's where some sisters with the last name of Fox heard knocking noises on a table in their house, and they began to communicate, so they claimed, with a spirit that was communicating to them with these knocking noises. And the phenomenon came to be known as the Rochester Rappings. Newark is, well, in a sense, it's a bedroom community to Rochester. So while you're still probably 20 miles out of the city limits of Rochester per se, it was in the culture of the time, these things became known as the Rochester Rappings. And there is, and this has been developed since I lived there, the proponents of spiritualism in the United States have gotten together to turn that into something of a tourist attraction, and they've built a visitor center on the site and so forth. But that's all in that area. So I'm going to close this to get it out of the way so that we can go ahead and get started.
Why is your voice coming out of that?
Coming out of what?
Cat's looking for you.
Oh. Poor kitty. Well, she could come in here and take a nap on the back of the couch behind me. She does that on occasion.
That's nothing to show like. Something you just handed me. It's nice and cold and wet on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Earlier in the week, I saw a traffic cam video that a particular website or a particular YouTube channel posted from Arkansas, and they showed an ambulance pull over to the side of the interstate, sat there for a bit. Eventually, people got out of the ambulance, walked around behind it, and at some point it looked like they were in a fight with each other. And people who were driving by saw what was going on. Some traffic stopped to try to help the ambulance employees, whatever was going on. And somebody else wasn't watching what was going on, rear-ended a stopped vehicle. Well, now you've got an accident there. Well, then the ambulance, without stopping to attend to anything that's going on in the accident, pulls back out onto the interstate and drives away. And people were wondering what was going on. Well, now we have the state police video to go with it, because the ambulance was apparently carrying someone who became combative, and the driver at some point stopped while they tried to deal with their combative patient, and the patient injured one of the employees, got in the ambulance and took off with it. Apparently all the employees were out of it at this point, I'm not sure. But then the ambulance company called the state police went after it, and well, I was telling my wife, if the guy didn't need to go to the hospital when he got into the ambulance before the incident, by the time state police got done with him, he needed to go to the hospital. So I'm thinking, yeah, by the way, the title there I put there are, and this is a bit of a manipulation generally on the part of both Jews and people who have translated the Bible since then, to make there be exactly 150 Psalms. So I put halfway kind of as a question there, because we're at Psalm 75. 75 is half of 150. But anyway, let's bow our heads and we'll begin our study tonight. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for your Son, who came to show us what it was like to live like you had designed us to live. You came here and demonstrated that there wasn't a manufacturer's defect, that in fact it is possible for humans to live according to your law of love. And you demonstrated how that could be done. We have come to believe that that's the only way we can truly enjoy life, is to live the way you designed us to live. And as we open your word, the written word this evening, we want your Holy Spirit to draw close to each person so they might hear from what is read what the Spirit intends us to hear and what will draw us closer to you. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. That's how we want it to be, so that you can see the text that we read And we're ready for Psalm 75. And this one has a title to it. It says, For the Choir Director, a Psalm of Asaph, a song to be sung to the tune, Do Not Destroy. Now, back in the days of the King James, they were just transliterating a lot of those titles. So if I look up this psalm there, it says, To the chief musician, Altachith, a psalm or song of Asaph. The types are kind of small. My fixed eyes now, it's hard for me to read up close, and so I couldn't exactly get everything they said there. Because in the King James, they put those titles in very tiny italic type instead of like they do here, a nice big bold type that's easy to read. Anyway, here's how it reads. We thank you, O God. We give thanks because you are near. People everywhere tell of your wonderful deeds. God says, At the time I have planned, I will bring justice against the wicked. When the earth quakes and its people live in turmoil, I am the one who keeps its foundations firm. Selah. Stop and think about that. And verse 2, I think, is key to understand here. Because they quote God saying, At the time I have planned. We humans have created for ourselves a rushed, time-sensitive society. And because we are mortal, we have a pretty powerful sense that we only have so much time to do things while we're on this planet and alive and able to do them. And that has led to a kind of frenetic living. You got to get it done because you've only got so much time. Push, push, push. And then we try to take that time critical approach to our relationship with God. And God says, wait. At the time I have planned. You can't rush it.
Be still and know that I am Lord.
We did read that psalm recently, didn't we?
Huh?
I said we did read that psalm recently, didn't we?
I don't remember.
Yeah. I believe that's Psalm 46. So, yes, and so, and this kind of ties back a little bit to what we read in Psalm 73, where we're warned not to get all bent out of shape about what the wicked are doing and how they're prospering. Because God says, at the time I have planned, I will bring justice against the wicked. Now we know what God's justice is to set things right. And he set things right by revealing truth. And truth will be in accordance with how some people have lived and thought, and it'll be contrary to how other people have lived and thought. And so the same action, the same words, the same revelation brings joy to some and destruction to others. And God says that's going to happen at the time I have planned. Don't try to rush into it. Don't try to bring it about any earlier than I have planned for it, because since I have planned for it, when I say it's time, it will take place. And then verse 3 also is kind of interesting, because it says, when the earth quakes and its people live in turmoil. Well, there's a lot of turmoil in the world around us, and sometimes it can even seem that the very foundation of things that we have relied on for years are sinking out from underneath our feet. But God says when that happens, I am the one who keeps the earth's foundations firm. I warned the proud, stop your boasting. I told the wicked, don't raise your fists. Don't raise your fists in defiance at the heavens, or speak with such arrogance. For no one on earth, from east or west, or even from the wilderness, should raise a defiant fist. Footnote A, or should lift. It is God alone who judges. He decides who will rise and who will fall. Now, there are people who read this, and I saw a post about this recently, that they're saying that it was essentially an atheistic post saying that this is how the Bible portrays God, and when Christians teach free will, they're just trying to put a good face on a bad God. Well, you could read this verse here that He, God, decides who will rise and who will fall in a sovereign grace sense and in a predetermined destiny for all sense. God decides whether you're going to be good or bad. Don't mess with it. Don't worry about it. Don't try to get on His side. If you're on His side, He's chosen you. You'll make it. Doesn't matter what you do, you'll make it. If He hasn't chosen you, doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to make it because He hasn't chosen you. But I think we need to read verse 7 and focus on the first phrase. It is God alone who judges. He decides who will rise and who will fall. In other words, it's not up to us to decide who is naughty and who is nice, if you want to use that terminology. We don't decide who should have eternal life and who should not. God decides that. Now, God's decisions will be based on reality, not on some arbitrary decision making on His part. You had a question or a comment?
Question. We're all naughty, and God is nice. And since God is nice, He, what was the terminology? He saves us all. It's just, are we going to be naughty and not accept His niceness? Or will we be out and accept His niceness? Meaning we're all saved. Just are we going to accept it or not?
Yes. For the Lord holds a cup in His hand that is full of foaming wine mixed with spices. He pours out the wine in judgment, and all the wicked must drink it, draining it to the dregs. And John borrowed that terminology.
What's foaming wine?
What? You didn't hear me. I asked you what?
Oh, I said, what is foaming wine? But then I thought maybe a beer with a head on it.
Well, yeah. If it's foaming, that means there's bubbles coming up in it, right? And that's usually associated with
Yeah, I guess.
with alcoholic content. But I was saying that John borrowed from this. He borrowed this language in the book of Revelation. Problem is, I'm going to have to find it, because he does speak of the woman on a beast, And it said she was drunk with the blood of the saints. It said she held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. But there's another place I'm going to, if I can find it, borrow a book to help me look up what I'm thinking of, because it's not coming to mind immediately exactly where I should look. Okay. I guess I had a general idea where I would find it. All right, yeah. Revelation 14, verse 9. The third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark on the forehead or in the hand, he too will drink of the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. He will be tormented with burning sulfur," and so on and so forth. The language there of the book of Revelation. Clearly, that reference to the wine of God's fury, his wrath, his indignation, is the term I looked up because that's how it's worded in the King James, comes right from these verses here in Psalm 75. A cup in the Lord's hand full of foaming wine mixed with spices. Now, spiced wine, I should think that would be kind of a delicacy or a gourmet treat, depending on how it's spiced. But then it says, he pours out the wine in judgment, and all the wicked must drink it, draining it to the dregs. But as for me, I will always proclaim what God has done. I will sing praises to the God of Jacob. For God says, I will break the strength of the wicked, but I will increase the power of the godly. And that's done largely through natural consequences, through just the way life was designed to operate. If you live outside of it, your life won't go well and you won't feel fulfilled and satisfied because you were designed for something and you're not living that way. Psalm 76. For the choir director, a psalm of Asaph, a song to be accompanied by stringed instruments. God is honored in Judah. His name is great in Israel. Jerusalem is where he lives. Mount Zion is his home. Footnote there, Salem, which is another name for Jerusalem. The Hebrew said Salem for that. Okay. There he has broken the fiery arrows of the enemy, the shields and swords and weapons of war. Stop and think about that. You are glorious and more majestic than the everlasting mountains. Everlasting mountains, that sounds interesting. That's done as in the Greek version. The Hebrew reads, than mountains filled with beasts of prey. The Mormons make a big deal about the term the everlasting hills. And they call the, I believe it's the Wasatch Mountains in Utah, the everlasting hills. And Salt Lake City then is in the shadow of those everlasting hills. Our boldest enemies have been plundered. They lie before us in the sleep of death. No warrior could lift a hand against us. At the blast of your breath, O God of Jacob, their horses and chariots lay still. And whoever wrote this probably had in mind a warrior God who stood up for his people and violently defeated the enemies of his people. We don't subscribe to that view of God. However, it is possible that God does set limits. We've discussed that, as in the book of Job when he says to the sea, you can come this far but not any further. Your proud ways have to stop here. And we related that then to the very limits that he placed on the accuser who came to the councils in heaven and accused Job. God said, well, okay, you can do this, but it stops here. And then another time, okay, you can go further, but it stops here. God places limits. So even against the toxic people who have it out for God's people who enjoy life despite the troubles around them, God places limits. And so in that sense, at the blast of his breath, their horses and chariots lay still. He puts an end to violence, not with violence. He puts an end to violence. No wonder you are greatly feared. Who can stand before you when your anger explodes? From heaven you sentenced your enemies. The earth trembled and stood silent before you. You stand up to judge those who do evil, O God, and to rescue the oppressed of the earth. Another interlude. Human defiance only enhances your glory, for you use it as a weapon. Footnote C. The meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain. Okay. It makes me think of some of the court cases I watch from time to time. People get all upset and they're trying to demonstrate what a lousy job the judge and the prosecutors are doing, and in the process they demonstrate exactly why they're being prosecuted. And so human defiance essentially becomes a weapon in the hands of their prosecutors. Make vows to the Lord your God and keep them. Let everyone bring tribute to the Awesome One, for he breaks the pride of princes and the kings of the earth fear him. Is it going to go? Yeah, there it is. Psalm 77. For Jeduthun, the choir director, a psalm of Asaph. I cry out to God. Yes, I shout. Oh, that God would listen to me. When I was in deep trouble, I searched for the Lord. All night long I prayed with hands lifted toward heaven, but my soul was not comforted. I think of God and I moan, overwhelmed with longing for his help. And that is an experience that we will have as humans because we live on a broken planet around broken people. We ourselves are broken and don't know how we ought to live sometimes, and as a result we sometimes make foolish choices and do stupid things. And then when our foolishness has gotten us into trouble, then we run to God looking for deliverance. And maybe God's answer is, you need to learn from this. If I set aside the consequences of your foolishness, you may not recognize it was foolish. And even if you do, you may not realize how important it is for you to come to me and get wisdom to deal with how you're living. You don't let me sleep. I'm too distressed even to pray. I think of the good old days, long since ended, when my nights were filled with joyful songs. I search my soul and ponder the difference now. Has the Lord rejected me forever? Will he never again be kind to me? Is his unfailing love gone forever? Have his promises permanently failed? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he slammed the door on his compassion? Interlude. And I said, this is my fate. The Most High has turned his hand against me. But then I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds of long ago. They are constantly in my thoughts. I cannot stop thinking about your mighty works. Now, there's a bit of a prescription, I think, in verses 10 through 12 here. When we get in this situation where we don't think God's responding to us, when he's not helping us, when we're in it up to our necks and can't find a footing and we're running out of energy to keep treading water, and we're trying to figure out where God is in that situation, then these verses, particularly 11 and 12, are the prescription. What do we need to do? I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds of long ago. They are constantly in my thoughts. I cannot stop thinking about your mighty works. O God, your ways are holy. Is there any God as mighty as you? You are the God of great wonders. You demonstrate your awesome power among the nations. By your strong arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Another interlude. So, with some people, journaling can be a tool. When things are going well, of course, that's sometimes when it's the hardest to remember to do things like this. But when things are going well, sit down and write out your thoughts and document the things that have happened and the ways you feel God has blessed you. And set these things aside. And then when those tough times come, as they're almost certainly going to, and you go back and you look at those journals and you read what you wrote earlier and what God did for you then. And then you can conclude that God's ways are holy. Reading on verse 16, when the Red Sea, or the waters, saw you, O God, its waters looked and trembled. The sea quaked to its very depths. The clouds poured down rain. The thunder rumbled in the sky. Your arrows of lightning flashed. Your thunder roared from the whirlwind. The lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Now that's kind of interesting that because in the Psalm 75 we read about the foundations of the world shaking, but God's the one who makes it firm and keeps it under our feet. Now it's talking about God showing up and how the earth trembled and shook. Anyway, your road led through the sea, your pathway through the mighty waters, a pathway no one knew was there. You led your people along that road like a flock of sheep with Moses and Aaron as their shepherds. And verse 20 is the context that gives credence to the choice in verse 16 to talk about the waters as the Red Sea. Because leading the people through a pathway through the waters that no one knew was there, with Moses and Aaron as their shepherds, is clearly a reference to that incident from the book of Exodus. Psalm 78, another psalm of Asaph. O my people, listen to my instructions. Open your ears to what I am saying. For I will speak to you in a parable. I will teach you hidden lessons from our past. Stories we have heard and known. Stories our ancestors handed down to us. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach them to their children, so the next generation might know them, even the children not yet born. And they, in turn, will teach their own children. And that's one of the issues that gets addressed in the Bible that has to deal with our current temporary human condition, and that is our being subject to death, so that our life here is just temporary, a period of grace granted to us by our Creator. And so one person doesn't last from this generation to the next to tell people what they personally experienced. And so we have come to rely on writing and to some extent also on oral tradition. Although, all you got to do is play a game of telephone to see how reliable oral tradition can be. Writing is slightly better, but unfortunately language changes over time, and so even writing can be subject to deterioration over time, making it difficult for us to fully gather. Oh boy. We just got disconnected. We've been disconnected for quite a while here.
Hmm?
I'm not sure what's going on because it says I've got an internet connection, but